All right. How we doing? How are we?
Are you feeling fresh, guys?
I feel amazing, man. All right. So, the hardcore priest baptizing the masses by bass, sanctifying the crowd with sound and hammering the ravers by holy hardcore. Icon is truly an understatement when it comes to this man, a legend in the Australian hardstyle scene. The host of the Def Con weekend kickoff and the sickest cunt to brace epic since that AUDIOFREQ bloke did in 2021. AUDIOFREQ, how we doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me here.
Awesome. Thank you for being here, man.
How's it been like back in Australia?
I mean, it's awesome to be back, right? It's great to see old friends. It's great to make new ones. It's great to be in a country with an ambience that is like, it's like an old pair of jeans that you're like, this is familiar. Yeah, you're like, oh yeah, and you feel comfortable and everything. But at the same time, it's and this is what I was saying to you guys beforehand when we were outside. It's a little bit like a half-remembered dream where things are familiar and things have changed. And like, was this real? Wasn't this real? But at the same time, you know, after traveling so much and living abroad, there's no place like home. I really mean it. I really mean it. Every time that I go to play a HSU event or I rock up at Massive, whether I'm playing or not, there's something special about the ambience, the atmosphere, the people, and you don't get that anywhere else. You know?
100%. Like, I really agree with this, man. Like, we have a very unique crowd.
Definitely.
And I think we're more appreciative of everything we see, everything we get, especially because, like, the Dutch crowd has got everything.
Yeah.
We are very, like, in a way, we are spoiled.
Sure.
And every time, you know, we bring all these artists, that it's just a pleasure, man. Like, the pleasure to see you guys come and show us what you've been preparing, and just to see it live in our home soil.
Yeah.
It's a different feeling. Like,
oh, absolutely, yeah. And like I said, you know, there's familiar faces that, you know, go back, you know, generations of ravers, so like 10 years ago, and then there's fresh faces. But at the same time, the attitude and the personality of the Australian people is kind of unmatched, and I really mean that. Like, I've played a lot in the States. I've played in Scotland. I've seen the German crowds go nuts. But at the same time, when you're just hanging out, right? Like, not playing, maybe it's before the set, maybe it's afterwards, the level of camaraderie and the level of just way that you can just chill with each other is very unique to this country, because it's not quite the same. Like, I love the American crowd because they're so appreciative, and they kind of are not spoiled in the regard that they're not hanging for the VIP. Oh, he didn't play the VIP? Oh, that was a shit set. You know, that the Dutch crowd can be a little bit critical like that. And to a certain degree, like, the Australian crowd is quite knowledgeable. So the American crowd is like, hey, we're here to party, whatever. And that's cool. But at the same time, you know, when you're just hanging out with the people, they're a little bit starstruck, which is nice, but it's not the sort of like, hey, that's my mate's mate, you know what I mean? Yeah. It's not my mate's mate, you know? And so, like I said, you know, the level of ambience and camaraderie and just like being together, it feels like it's a big extended family here, even though there's literally tens of thousands of people that go out and enjoy the hardstyles.
Yeah, dude, I was going to say, like, even last week at Epic, which we'll touch on in just a second, like, you roaming through the crowds, even at DEF CON earlier this year, you just rocking around through the crowds. Like, it's awesome to see DJs do that stuff. And it's even better when I bumped into you at Epic and I was like, oh, I was just going through the messages and you're like, you're in Marylands. I was like, hey, I live down the road from Maryland.
Yeah, there you go.
It's so funny, like, even with like Corey and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
He lived in Fairfield. He would like went to school where my brother went to school. Like, it's all so close, and it's so funny, like, that we find out things like this after.
Definitely.
So that's like one reason we wanted to do this, because me growing up listening to this music, I could only make like, oh, I love this DJ, I love this song, but I could never make that connection with them. But only just recently, like, I've started to get to know DJs more, producers, like everyone behind the scenes. So like, I've always just wanted to know like the deep down about them.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty much one reason why we started this.
Yeah. And touching base on like schools and stuff, like Eli. Is it Ellie?
Ellie.
So Ellie and Steph actually went to my school. But
there you go.
Yeah, so it's a small world. Like,
it's a tiny world.
Yeah, and like I said, you know, but that's the thing about the Australian scene, is that it does feel like an extended family. Exactly with what you said. He went to this school. He lived over there. Knew these people. That's really cool.
Yeah. All right. So for our first segment,
we got a little segment.
Oh, nice. Okay, let's roll.
So we're gonna kick it off with a segment called Dropping Bombs.
Okay.
So it's a controversial opinion kind of segment. So
Spicy takes.
Yeah, like a very spicy take.
Yeah, so I'll pass it on to Phil for that one.
Okay.
So one thing we want to ask all our guests as soon as they come in here is if there's one thing you could remove from the hardstyle scene, what would it be?
Oh, that's a tricky one.
It can be anything. It could be from a certain kick, a certain person that you do not like, but just one thing.
Okay, so here's a spicy take, and it's got less to do with producers or subgenres and everything, because a lot of people are sort of like, I don't like this because this is overrated, or I don't like that, or so-and-so is underrated and whatever. It's less about that and more about like the business stuff from behind the scenes.
Yeah.
What I don't like in a scene as a whole, and it doesn't matter what it is monopoly. And unfortunately, there are some companies based in Holland that have a bit of a monopoly on the scene with some of the business activities that they do behind the scene. If they existed here in Australia, it'd be like totally ACCC anti-competitive stuff, but somehow it works over there. I'm not going to name names, but those who know kind of what I'm talking about. No, just because it might be a little bit too much. But
no, that's fine.
What I'm saying is like, to turn a negative into a positive, I believe in diversity and I believe in competition because that keeps people sharp. But when one company or a handful of companies or an umbrella that owns many of these companies that people know and love, and the different parts, so be that a booking agency or they've invested in created companies with artists as well, when that starts happening, in my opinion, it can make the scene less diverse because there's putting too much business before art. And I'm not saying that you've got to always think art first, business second. No, because at the end of the day, you know, we do what we do because we love what we're doing, but we like to get paid. We like to pay the bills. We want to, you know, pay our groceries, get a new car, all that sort of stuff. Of course, business is part of music industry. But when there's too much of a death grip held by one company, that's not so cool.
Yeah, I think, look, I'm a true believer of like working together, rising together.
Sure.
Because at the end of the day, like I feel like every person or every company brings something different to the
Definitely.
to the scene.
Definitely.
That's what makes it unique. Like you know, the diversity that we have is what makes us, you know, the scene we are at the moment.
Absolutely.
And I think like having one big shot caller doesn't pay off in the end because like who cares? Like at the end of the day, if your event's good enough, and you know you're bringing something different to the table and you're thinking of a different concept, like that's what is going to make you stand out. And at the end of the day, why would it matter if there's someone else making events? At the end of the day,
Totally.
if I make events and you make events and someone else makes events, we're just going to have different variety of things.
So like the kind of thing that I'm talking about is when one company starts pushing down on other people, pushing down on other companies and restricting movements of either artists or other companies. You can't do this. We've got the contract for that, blah, 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 blah. And that sort of anti-competitive practice, like that's not so cool. So for the people that are a little bit more knowledgeable, they can connect the dots and figure out who I'm talking about and what I'm talking about. But I don't want to name names.
It's just
that's fine.
big dogs, you know.
Yeah,
Everyone just wants to be a big dog. But everyone should just be a top G. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah. I mean, like you said before, you know, if you're working together, you rise together, and that's cool.
Yeah.
I prefer to think of it as like a rising tide lifts all ships.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's the same kind of concept. And when people kind of work together, maybe not necessarily against each other, it means that things grow in a better way.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, we can all learn from each other anyways. Like what mistake you make, I can learn from it and I can, you know,
Absolutely.
improve it for the next time. And
Sure.
yeah, that's how we make shit happen, you know?
Yeah. So not very spicy take, but
it's still something.
right.
Yeah. It's been 10 minutes and I've realised you're the most philosophical man in hardstyle.
maybe. I think a lot.
Yeah. So yeah, we just want to bring it back. Main reason we're having you on is because you've been a long time friend of the guys working with us at Hardstyle Australia.
Yeah.
But also Epic, dude, you absolutely destroyed it from 2021. Absolutely killing it also.
Thank you.
To now this, like that was something that blew us all out. And I had a sort of feeling you would play a bit more like a harder up-tempo set, which I was so keen about.
Yeah.
But like the way you started off with the anthem perfectly from last year, and then kicked it off. You were playing an Anger Fist set that we haven't seen here in years because you were just playing classics.
Yeah.
And then you just kicked it off into some absolute rough stuff.
Yeah.
And dude, like the crowd reactions, people's reactions on all socials, like you just, I'm not going to say saved the event, but in a way, like you brought to light like a new taste on music. So
Right.
it was awesome. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, I mean, to close the same event 2 years in a row is a big responsibility.
Oh, definitely.
And what I was thinking about was like, how do we use last year as a jumping off point to make next year or this year even better? And over the past 12, maybe even 18 months, up-tempo hardcore has really become mainstream. And I've always loved music that has a lot of energy. You know, if you compare to last year's set, I was already playing 200 BPM stuff, but it was kind of like 10 minutes of it.
Yeah.
So what I was thinking about was like two things. I'm trying to achieve two goals. First off, there's the munted people who they kind of need. No, but let's be real. It's an event, right?
It's true.
So
I
there's
still
the
remember
munted.
your commentary last year. Like, hey, come on, take that pill.
Yeah, exactly. So there's those guys, right? There's those guys that are already kind of floaty. You know, it's like for them, like everything's kind of rocking and rolling, and they're like not able to move much. How do you reach these people? Well, they need melody, they need a little bit of feels, they need some stuff that's recognizable, something that's going to grab their attention, maybe, you know, give them a bit of life outside of their days, almost like a little Vicks vapor, you know, thingy. So give them that, and then at the same time, there's people that are charged up and they just want to give everything for the last hour kind of thing. So, I was trying to reach both people at the same time.
So just up tempo in your face.
Well, it wasn't, but that's the thing. I think the power of up-tempo comes when it's a bit of a surprise, when there's kick switches or whatever. So what I tried to do in amongst juggling these kind of two balls in the air was like, if I'm going to play hardcore and fast hardcore, make sure that it's done in a way that is interesting, that feels refreshing, and at the same time is dotted with bits and pieces that are sort of like, oh yeah, that one. Oh yeah, that one.
So I'm actually gonna be a bit rude to you, but it's fair because you were a bit late. You started playing. You started playing "Come Running" like the audio, the intro to it.
Yeah.
I know where this is going.
Okay.
He turned his back, which is very rude. He turned his back and started blocking his ears. And let me just say, to hear the kick switch and the fake drop, that was like the best thing ever because all you could see was his face staring at me, and I'm just like, yes, this is happening. This is happening.
I mean, like, look, you gotta filter out the bullshit, and then you save your ears for the good stuff.
No, but I guess that takes on what you were saying. Like, you bring everyone in, those people that are like loving the melodies and stuff, and then obviously they're going to bring out the phone.
And by the way, nothing against Darren Styles.
No. He's daddy.
He's
daddy.
Daddy
Styles.
No, but that's a very, very big statement. Like, I still remember him getting called King of Hardcore.
Yeah. Okay.
At the events, he got introduced as the King of Hardcore.
Right.
We were all like, oh.
Yeah, I don't know about this one.
When's the last time Villain's in an AUDIOFREQ? So
I mean, yeah, that's exactly right. Looking back, he was definitely surprised with what was happening. He didn't quite prepare himself for
half of Sydney was. So it was awesome, man.
Thank you so much.
Going back to what you were saying about, like, you know, just having a bit of for everything.
Sure.
It is a big skill to have, and a most important skill to have as a DJ, to read the crowd and cater for everyone. You know,
yeah.
That's what I think a lot of people lack, and like reading the crowd. Like, yeah, you can prepare a set and everything, but like, you can just sit there and imagine what you're like, the reactions you're going to get from the certain people you're targeting, and it's so good that and refreshing that you actually target like every single person that's at the event, and you know, bring a flavor for everyone, which is why like makes you so unique.
Thank you.
In a way.
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, like I said, closing that size of an event 2 years in a row is a huge responsibility, and so I wasn't going to like fly by the seat of my pants and like, oh, I feel like this one now, and feel like that one now, maybe. So there was like a lot of thinking and planning that went into it, of sort of how to guide people a little bit, and understanding the Aussie crowd, which is why I did a couple of like Darren Styles, you know, flips kind of things, sort of like to grab the people that are like, I remember this one, and then, you know, given the screw face moment. But I think really what it comes down to is understanding our roles as DJs, and we kind of wear two hats. One is to be an entertainer, and one is to be an educator. And in every crowd, it needs a different ratio of both of those things. Some are just, you can just entertain and just do whatever. You don't have to really play a lot of new stuff. You can just play all the bootlegs and no worries, and that's what the crowd needs and that's what they want. And other crowds, maybe they don't want all of that. They might cringe when they hear "Lose My Mind" for the third time of the night,
So I was still dancing to like 3 times.
But every crowd is kind of different, and understanding that these are the 2 hats that we've got to wear as a DJ, and figuring out what that ratio has got to be for the event is an important thing that needs to be reflected upon. And that's something that it really only dawned on me in the last couple of years. I'm like, okay, I could just play a set of my own stuff, only my own stuff, but I want to be invited back again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want
longevity.
Yeah, I want repeat business, because effectively we're contractors, and the club and the people at the dance floor are our clients.
Yeah.
So, finding the right balance to get that repeat business is an important thing for me, because I like doing what I do. I like hanging out with people. I like playing the music that I play. So I want to keep on doing it.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's awesome to see, man. Like, definitely, a lot of people, I've probably thought of it that way, but you saying like we are clients, these people are businesses.
Yeah.
You guys are selling your product yourselves. So like a lot of DJs, I think, don't take that like in that perspective. They're like,
Sure.
I just want to play what I want to play, blah, blah, why don't people like me?
Yeah.
So yeah, I never really thought about it. Sometimes you do have to come down to the masses and try and entertain everyone, but yeah, that's
it's a balancing act, right? For everybody, it's different. Where they feel comfortable is with, there's no preset. It's got to be 50-50 all the time. No, you find what you're comfortable with. You find what they need, and it's a kind of dance. Like when you kind of like dance salsa with a girl, you kind of figure out how they move, push forward, pull back, all that sort of stuff. Same thing with the dance floor, and then you find that ratio a little bit in. I'm more entertaining now. I'm more educating now. Whatever it is.
And like moral of the story, do your homework before you come.
There you go.
Okay, so
exactly
don't just
right.
rock up and pray.
Well, I can't bootleg.
You do your homework, like coming to a gig early, reading the crowd, seeing what type of crowd. Because like for example, like we play at Massive, and then there's a different crowd every weekend. So every gig, every artist is different that comes in, internationals. So you got to understand what crowd they bring and how can you like set up yourself for success. Basically.
Exactly right.
So, Mr. AUDIOFREQ,
yes.
Can you please tell us a bit about your early life? Where you grew up. What brought you to the hard dance music? When did you start producing?
Oh, I started producing in something like 2002. And I started making music because I heard music that I liked and I wanted to make my own version of it. I think that everybody has that kind of moment, right? I got exposed to hard dance music on the way to a trumpet lesson. 100%.
Wait, so you could have been the next Timmy Trumpet, or?
Well, I was maybe. I just don't have the head for those kinds of hats. I just don't.
Your head should never be covered. No, but so like, were you ever involved in like in your early music life? Sure. Were you ever involved in anything other than just like classical music or like with instruments and stuff?
Yeah, so I started with the piano, a little bit of classical training with the piano, a little bit with the trumpet, and somewhere throughout the line as going to a trumpet lesson, I'll never forget it. I was tuning the radio because I was bored, and my parents' car stereo only had tapes. So I'm like, I'm not going to listen to their old music. I'm going to listen to what's on the radio, see if I can find something that I like.
German techno.
Yeah, and no, actually, it was Dutch hardcore, but I didn't know it was Dutch. I didn't know it was Dutch hardcore at the time.
Was this on Australian?
This was an Australian radio. So this is way, way back in the days when Wild FM was a thing, and they were playing more happy hardcore. Triple J used to play happy hardcore as well. Yeah, man, this is a long, long time ago. And I heard this. I'm like, what is this music?
This is awesome.
Yeah, I need more. Yeah. And every way, since then, that moment, every time I like go to trumpet lesson, I'm like, okay, I know it this time. We're going to play this music. I'm going to keep on tuning in and start taping the stuff. And then after a while, like that sort of died down, but Weaver and Sway were part of a community radio station called CPX, and that exposed me to more like UK hardcore and that sort of world of things. And I was like, okay, now I know that there's a steady source of where I can listen to this. I want to make it. And through the process of just like trying different bits of software, and a lot of it was quite rudimentary compared to what we have now.
Yeah.
Like I started, like sampling bits here, getting a break there and chopping it up and all that sort of stuff, and slowly teaching my way production so that I could make what I liked. You know, is that kind of a thing. Now, I've always been kind of genre agnostic all the way. You know, when I first started, of course, there was a lot of energy from Dutch hardcore, and that's what I really enjoyed. But I was never really subscribed to the scene. I was always producer first. I hear cool stuff. I want to make cool stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you want to reproduce it sort of in a way of your own taste.
Exactly. And then trying to find that sort of stuff in you know, CD stores back in the days when they existed, they didn't really have that much.
The only one I can think of was Parramatta.
Yeah.
Next to the old Junkie Jacks, if anyone remembers. They had a record store there. When I was like 10, 11, I was buying like records from like, they had Thunderdome records
Oh,
there
man,
and stuff like
that is so cool.
Yeah, that's the only one I can think of. So, yeah, good luck finding anything in Australia.
Exactly. It's kind of limited.
At that time, I wasn't even in Australia. So,
Awesome.
plus, you're talking about 2002, man. Like, I was 4 years old.
Yeah, so I've been like, but that's when I was like the primordial trying to like figure out what the heck is going on and all that sort of stuff. And there was way less resources than there is now. Somewhere, like I started putting some stuff up on like Happy Hardcore forums, and
forums or where everything was back in the days.
It used to be.
I know it's not music related, but like 4chan and everything, that like it was always just forums and like Reddit. Like I've only been using Reddit properly for like the last year and a half, but it's just, that's like the place to be.
Yeah,
like, for
absolutely.
everyone.
Absolutely. So at the time there was like two major UK hardcore, Happy Hardcore forums. One was ush.net, one was happyhardcore.com. And through posting stuff on there, we're slowly starting to figure out that there's actually people in, you know, that I can speak to, that play the music, that make the music, and slowly started growing from there, and got in touch with Corey. Though we didn't really meet until we ended up at the same class at SAE. It was very strange. Like, we'd been talking backwards and forwards for a while. He liked, you know, the demos or whatever I was putting out there. I'd had some records pressed and whatnot, and he was enjoying it. And then one time, like, I signed up to go to the SAE Institute, and they were calling out the names and marking the roll off for the first time, and then like, Corey Solyan, and I'm like, who?
This guy's here.
What?
Friends.
I know that name. Yeah, exactly. It was like, and we were the only two electronic guys in that class. And some of them were like metalheads, some of them were punk rockers.
So this was in 2002.
So this would have been, now we're in like 2005, 2006 kind of area.
Still early days.
So still early days, exactly. And by this time, like we started to really, you know, bond over production, and that's always been our kind of thing. And I would say that's like the real beginning phases of where we grew into who we were going to become. Of course, it was still very UK hardcore focused at the time.
Yeah.
And I think around 2007, I went off and tried to pursue a career in UK hardcore, moved to the UK. That didn't work out for a bunch of reasons. Like, I just wasn't ready for it. No, it wasn't too much partying. It was probably not enough partying. Like, not networking and like not getting myself out there and that sort of stuff.
Too focused on music, would you say?
Yeah, a bit of that, and also like not having a lot of resources when I landed. And what I mean by that is like no car, not knowing so many people, you know, so I was kind of like confined to a bedroom for most of the time. And then it was really difficult. It was very difficult to make friends there as well, because emotionally I wasn't the same person, right? We all evolve over time. So it was really difficult for me, and I got very homesick. And then at one point I sort of just broke down in tears, gave Corey a call and say, hey bro, I've run out of money. Can I borrow some money so you can fly me home? And let's look into Hardstyle.
Sorry, you asked Corey to just get you a ticket.
Yeah, but we'd been friends for a while.
I know you guys are friends, but like flight prices now, no way I'm sending him back home if he's stuck overseas. I'd leave you there.
Right, more than happy to go back home.
I mean, it was kind of backwards and forwards from going to the UK for like 2006, 2007, 2008. And at that point, we've been toying with the idea, like, UK hardcore, maybe not the vibe. He was way more involved and switched on and familiar with just the Sydney rave scene as a whole. I was like more of the producer mind. He just knew people and liked going to raves.
Did you go to raves?
Not that much. Not that much, because again, more of the producer mind, and like I grew up in a very conservative household kind of thing. Ethnic parents, like, you're back at 10. What's going on? You know, all that sort of stuff. So when I went to events, it was just really to hear either people play my music, or I had a friend that was playing there, and it wasn't like to really party from, you know, dusk till dawn kind of thing. But because Corey was more switched on, he was exposing me to hardstyle. And the first time I heard it, I can't remember which track it was. It was some like old Plutonium Boy thing, and I'm like, this is terrible music. There's no melody to it. I don't like it. It's slower. I've been used to like 175 racy stuff. I love drum and bass, so even then I was like, this is not even close to what I like. Then he sent me the first Project One album. With Art of Creation on there and all that sort of stuff. And I was like, okay, now I'm paying attention. This is cool. Melodies come into place. How the heck did they do these kicks? Because this was like, before anyone knew anything about it. And at that time, I said to Corey, let's work on this. Let's do something together. There's something here. We both like the production challenge of it, because that's really one of the things that kind of keep us going, the production challenge. And let's see what happens. So we started toying around with it. We got asked to do a kind of anthem theme song for a party called Cosmic Destination. And then when we did that, that was probably like the first bioweapon track that we did. And I moved back from the UK again to Australia, and then we're like, all right, let's do this. UK hardcore's not for us. Let's leave our individual aliases and careers behind. Let's work together and see what we can build. And I would say that's kind of like the beginning of everything. Now, there were some other guys that really laid down the foundations for us to become who we became. Nick Fish was a big one. He started supporting our music early on. There was another guy called Nick Zupan who used to go under the name of Audio Damage. And he had a small record label called, I think it was just Aussie Hardstyle, something along those lines. And he put out an EP of our kind of music. And there were some other, DJs, of course, beforehand. Yeah. But those two really gave us a bit of a platform in the real early phases when we were just making music. Through their exposure of our music to other people, it gave us a bit of a stepping stone to then talk to Scantrax and release stuff with them, got in touch with the Prophet, and then, things started snowballing from there. Yeah. So that's kind of like the real, history lesson for you guys.
Yeah, from there.
All right, so so you would say that, from taking it back to what you were saying before, that Corey was the guy with the network, you were the guy that's like more producer mind kind of thing.
Well, I mean, that's making it a little bit too black and white. Yeah. It is more of like, because
I was gonna say the person in front of me is totally different. The vibes I was getting, you are the introverted person, he was more the extrovert, and then I see
at the time you as
a very extroverted person
at the time. Well, I mean, I feel more, to be honest, more introverted. There's a certain point where I'm like, my social battery's done, whatever. But definitely at the time, that was kind of the balance, right? Corey was more of the extrovert, the cool guy, and I was kind of like this short, shaved head, nerd sitting in the back of the seat trying to show him real weird underground drum and bass. And so, and those beginning phases of Bioweapon, he was definitely he putting out there, talking to people, all that sort of stuff. But to say that, in some duos, you've got one guy that is really the producer mastermind, the other one that's kind of the DJ. It wasn't that kind of relationship. We were both egging each other on as big production nerds, but he was definitely more extrovert than I was.
You were saying after you came back from the UK for the second time. You said you started working on your bioweapon stuff. Was that your first breakthrough gigs and stuff like that, or were you still under another name doing other things?
Well, with UK hardcore, I had a moderate amount of success. Not a lot. I'd already done Australia, played Australia a couple of times under Orbit One, which was my UK hardcore alias.
What was it?
Orbit One.
All but one.
Orbit one.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
He knows.
I used to listen to Happy Heart.
And he still turned around during Come Running. Oh my God.
I give it the respect it deserves.
I just really know it, but I know Orbit One.
Sure.
Corey had a different name.
Inverse, yeah. So, in the UK hardcore space, I achieved a moderate amount of success. I mean, the ability to be able to go into the UK, to tour the UK and then move there, that was enough. I'd already done Canada for a couple of shows. I'd done the US for a little bit, and I think Japan I'd done,
a couple of tours.
Exactly. So a couple of different shows here and there internationally. And so I was kind of already exposed to doing that sort of thing. But then with Bioweapon, we saw that there was like, we're on the cusp of a wave, like the cusp of a tidal wave. We came in at the right time when Hardstyle was transitioning from being just like second room music to main room music. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, because it sort of always had that, like, everyone still calls it now to this day. Everyone says like techno is now like early hardstyle.
Definitely.
And that's how I, like, when I was younger, that's what it was for me. Like I was listening to like Bass Hunter and stuff like that, and I was
For
like,
sure.
dude, this is her early hardstyle for me, because now it's just more of a kick, more of a drive, and yeah.
I'm going to
Yeah.
give you a quick question.
Sure.
Favorite Bioweapon track?
Favorite Bioweapon one? Oh, that's kind of tricky because to me, it's like children. I love all my babies. There's an unreleased one called The Heretic. And
You can't. No,
There
you
was
can't.
something released,
Unreleased.
oh no, but it did get a bit of support from some of the Dutch guys as well. We managed to send it out. Like B-Front
okay.
was playing it and that sort of
But
thing.
that's
So it's-
new, right?
No, man. We did this one in like 2009,
Wait, so
2010.
it's
still
it's
unreleased.
released.
Still unreleased. I think we eventually gave it out for free at some point. But yeah, it was. Yeah,
Alright, well, my favorite.
yeah, hit me with your favorites, and I can give you a story about it.
It's a cliche,
Sure,
kind of
no.
classic, or I don't care what anyone says.
No.
Bass power.
Oh yeah. Oh, dude, I love. I remember very clearly making that song as well. Like it was before DEF CON 2009, so I think it's the first, or maybe it was the second one. No, I think it was the first one that we had
2009 is the first one,
in Australia,
Yeah.
and we got booked to play. It wasn't the main stage; it was like the orange stage, and we're like, okay, we need music. I mean, it's DEF CON, right?
Orange. stage.
Rip Orange.
Yeah. So, to give you another history, I feel like this is going to be the theme of the podcast.
This is what we want. I never knew. I thought orange was always like sort of like main because orange heart. You know,
Yeah,
they always
yeah,
say
yeah.
that
No.
thing. But an orange stage, no.
Yeah, so they used to have an orange stage, which was the hard trance stage.
Oh, okay.
And they kept that going in Australia for a little bit. Then in Holland, as hard trance and tech trance started dying pretty quick, I think by the time they got to like 2012, it was like gone, totally gone. But yeah, they booked us to play the orange stage, I think, because there weren't that many Australian hardstyle acts at the time. And we were the only ones then that had actually signed or had music signed to a international label, so to Scantrax. And we're like, okay, we need some new music, of course. And then I was cutting up some vocals and going through some acapellas. I'm like, okay, this one says something about bass. This is cool. And what I look for in those kinds of what I call diva vocals, you know, they sampled from like old soul tracks and all this sort of stuff. I always wanted to talk about music or lifting you up, something like that. Because that's the kind of vocals, you know, something that everyone can kind of relate to. Either music, so it's talking about what's going on in the song, or lifting you up. Not necessarily like love stuff. I don't think that's really appropriate for the genre. And so when I found these couple of words, bass power, something else, blah, 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 I'm like, okay, this has the potential to be something. It's kind of inspired by like some wild style stuff at the time. And Corey and I were like, hang on, we always think we're like really technically, right? So we're like, we've done a song in this key, we've done a song in that key, we've done a song in this key. What about if we did something like really high up in B minor as opposed to doing something in F sharp or G? Cool. Does the vocal work there? Nice. Sweet. So, you know, started chopping it up, started working on something. And then I was standing like in my parents' yard, gave him a call. I was like, hey, bro, what kind of melody should we do for this? And he's like, okay, what about this? What about that? And I'm like, oh, what about this one from, I think it was like Kuhn. Yeah, the chord progression is really cool. Yeah, we can do that. All right, sweet. I'll get back to you. And then the day afterwards, check this out. It's like, yo, this is really cool. So it was a cool song that came together in a short amount of time. One of those things where, you know, you kind of got the Midas touch. And when when you're playing football and you just keep on passing and it's just like golden passes every time.
It's just total football, just total hardstyle.
Yeah, absolutely. So those kind of like golden, like, oh, everything's coming together. And so that was Bass Power, one of those ones.
Do you feel like the tracks that are made in the shortest time are always the best?
I was just about to ask this. I hear this from so many artists. They say like sometimes they have an idea and they just pounce.
Sometimes,
like a day's work or like even a few hours work, and like, because we always ask the artist like that we meet, is like, okay, so you made this track, like, you know, how long did it take you to make it? Like, oh, we just put it together in 4 hours.
Yeah,
and we're
yeah.
like mind blown, and then like, all right, well, an opposite to like a track where it took him a month, and it doesn't really like.
It depends. Hey, I don't think that's necessarily the case for me. And it also depends. Wait, if we go back and look at the question, a lot of it depends on like how much stuff they've already got ready, you know. So if you were trying to build a song from scratch, you know, kick
Trumpet.
and claps and all that sort of stuff, all the sound design from scratch in those 4 hours is usually not going to happen. So more often than not, it's kind of like, oh, I had this vocal here, I had this melody here, I put this together, and then it all just came together in a really cool way, sort of like almost like Chinese cooking, you know, when they got the wok, everything's horrible. Grab this, bro. I'm a philosopher. I really am. So to a certain degree, I can absolutely relate to that, and I've had a few of those moments. But I think for myself, the songs that I'm happy with are the ones that I usually labor over a lot longer to make sure that all the edges are polished, everything's smoothed out, everything comes nice. And so my method of production is sort of done in kind of binging stages, where I'll be like working really hard on a particular section for a song for maybe 2 or 3 days, let it rest, come back, do something else, maybe work on a different genre, and then come back the next week and then be like, all right, I was happy with that, and then am I still happy with it a week afterwards or whatever? My mind has let it go enough that I can be a little bit more objective, because sometimes you can be so deep into the song where you're not objective anymore. And so I prefer to do things in phases and stages and take a little bit more time. And then when I listen back to it, I'm like, clearly you can hear that love has gone into this. Yeah. That's my preferred way. But some people are different, you know. Some people are really like, yo, this, and then the vocalist did that, and then I did, and then it just came together in like 4 hours.
Some people just...
It's very important to actually like love what you're making, because there's a lot of people that like, I've heard that they make music but they don't really love what they make, which is, to me, like, what's the point, you know? You gotta love what you're doing, you gotta love what you're making, and at the end of the day, it's a long-term game.
Yeah.
So you're pretty much setting yourself up for success if you like what you're
absolutely
what you're making,
absolutely. And that's kind of been my ethos all along, like, and why my music catalog is as varied as it is, because it's all about loving what I'm making and not trying to force things. I mean, there are some points when you're in a studio session, and of course, you know, things aren't going according to plan, and you kind of need to persist, grit your teeth, and get through it. And then maybe at the 11th hour, things click into place, and you're like, "Yo, yeah, it came together." But I've always tried to focus on making what I love, and then we get what we get, right?
Yeah.
We get an epic set.
There you go. Exactly right. Exactly right.
So yeah, touching back on what you said, 2009. So you get your first booking, Bioweapon.
Yes.
From there, how does it steamroll into actually moving abroad into the NL?
Ooh, my memory's a little foggy in this one, so things might be a little bit
too much partying. After that point.
Well, it's so long ago, right? You know, if you think about it.
Yeah, it is.
2009,
like
crazy, man. It's like a whole
like long in terms of like years wise, but scene wise, that's so long ago.
Yeah, man. So not only were we the first Aussie hardstyle producers to have music released internationally, we're also the first ones to MC, to have an act.
Oh wow.
Yeah, because most of the time back in those days, if DJs are on vinyl, it's very difficult for them to MC, and so we created hype with like, it was, you're going to see these guys, it's going to be a fun show, that kind of a thing. And so through the touring around Australia, we managed to save enough money, and we had enough of a profile that it was easy for us to go over to NL and, you know, go from there. Some people think that if I go internationally to where the home of the scene is, I can build everything from there. We did it differently. We built as much as what we could in Australia, felt like we hit a ceiling, and then we're like, all right, if we need to grow further, we need to go to, you know, deeper waters kind of thing. We saved up a lot. We were doing like classes and stuff, production for other people, put some money in the bank, and then moved over once we were working with our label, Scantrax at the time, and a booking agent. We already managed to secure a booking agent there to be able to find all the stuff that we needed to be able to transition. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because when moving countries, it's always the little things that make life like really hard if you don't have them sorted out. So things like car and things like, you know, where's the local shopping center in terms of where you live.
All the Albert Heijns.
Yeah, all the Albert Heijns, you know, all that sort of stuff. So making sure that sort of stuff was sorted. That was a lot easier because we already had a bit of a reputation. People were already interested in getting us over there. So that, and we were also growing at the same time as Tone Shifters were. So we kind of had this rivalry, but not really rivalry, where we were on Scantrax, Bioweapons on Scantrax, and Tone Shifters were on Fusion. And we saw what Fusion was doing for them, and then we'd be like hitting up Scantrax, like, hey, can you help us with this? And this is we haven't thought of, and all that sort of stuff. So we moved over in 2011, and yeah, we had a lot of the stuff kind of sorted. We made sure that rent was kind of sweet for close to 6 months, and that we didn't, if everything went wrong, we didn't have bookings, we could kind of be okay.
Yeah.
Now, we're kind of lucky in the regard that, like, we already had the agenda pretty full by the time that we landed, so we didn't have to worry about all that sort of stuff. But this is also the point where things started to go wrong between me and Corey. And some of it was like personal stuff, was sort of like, I feel like you're not doing this and you're not doing that, and not communicating all that well. And at the same time, we'd moved in together. We're living in the same house, which is a delicate thing, actually. And I really grew to appreciate how delicate that situation can be when you're moving in with friends, and how that can go wrong. And then, you know, if it does go wrong, you're not friends anymore. And also the pressures of like living together with your work partner.
Yeah.
That is really hard.
Because the stress of work along with living with someone, like this guy comes late and I'm like losing my absolute marbles. But like I could imagine like working with someone, you already have the stresses of that. And then coming home and like, just anything could go off and just set it off. So
absolutely,
kudos to you for like attempting it and doing it, because that's
it was pretty
so
hard. It was hard, and it went wrong. Actually, it went wrong, and some of it had to do with like emotional maturity, kind of on my part, and some of it had to do with just like the general stresses of, you know, moving in together for the first time, living together, working together, and then doing that internationally. In a place that you don't feel home, that you're not having your space, kind of like confined to your own room. Like my studio was in my bedroom when I'd been used to having a completely different setup. I was like, oh man, shit is just going funky. I don't feel comfortable. It got pretty rough, man. It got pretty hairy. I had a lot of panic attacks and all that sort of stuff. It was like, not a good place to be. But through that kind of like forge, we got Code Black and we got AUDIOFREQ, which is kind of unique, because when duos split up, particularly back then, it was like one guy was the producer and one guy was the DJ, and then the producer goes off and does something cool, and the DJ sort of disappears.
You got that a lot before now. Like you see some split up and then like they're both doing really well.
Yeah.
Like I still think Psychopunks is one of the last ones where we can see like they did split up, but it was still really cool to see both of them pulling their way.
Definitely. So, you know, it was a bit hairy for a little bit, and then we started growing individually. We discovered our own approaches to music as well. And I would say, you know, around 2015, like we started talking again, because we hadn't been talking since we split for a couple of years. And then something happened. I can't remember exactly what it was. It all became water under the bridge, and we managed to rekindle what we'd lost, which I thought was really cool. And then what was cool to see as well is like how much each other had changed after not talking to each other for like 4 or 5 years, kind of thing, and what is the same as well. So Corey has always been big on his feels, like even way back when I first met him, right? He was like super into like more the trancey stuff and Juno beats, all this sort of thing. And I was more like, hey, but drum and bass, you know, and gnarly drum and bass as well.
Yeah, like with you with a happy hardcore.
So basically, one's a crackhead and the other one is, what do we call the other one?
Normal. Just, I'm fine.
So that's the AUDIOFREQ we're seeing.
Right, exactly. That's the beginning phases, and so a lot of the times when you're working together, like as a production duo, there can be ideas that somebody pitches. The other one's like, no, that's dumb, you know, and that can get a little bit tiring after a while.
Like,
you know?
especially like we see it from like a group perspective when someone says one thing, like no one wants to say anything. We'll just leave it at that. So I can imagine just two people, like you have to say something.
Yeah, totally, dude. And so by going solo, there was none of that actually. And so that was kind of cool. Like, oh, if I want to put a dubstep break in the middle of this, I can now. So discovering and feeding those urges of like just random ideas really sort of helped separate the two distinct identities between Code Black and AUDIOFREQ. But it was cool. I think if we hadn't gone through those rough lessons, first off, of course, we wouldn't have the artists that we have today. I wouldn't be here with you guys. But also, just in terms of people, it was like a real hard way to grow up. And it was shitty at the time, but I'm kind of glad that it happened, because first off, our friendship is I would like to believe, stronger than ever. But also, like creatively we're both feeling really good about it as well. And then when we can relate to so many different things, and yeah, it's cool. It's cool.
I mean, look, it's part of growing. It's part of like, you know, taking risks, making mistakes. It's all about growing. So,
Definitely.
I feel like, you know, you learn a lot from what you went through, and it wouldn't have shaped you how you are now if it wasn't for those experiences.
Exactly.
So one quick question.
Hit me.
Living in the Netherlands for a very long time, and you're still living there. How bad is the food there?
Culinary wise, it's
Dude, it's like an ongoing joke between all the expats. You know, I'm literally talking to Hista right now, and she's from France, right?
Yeah.
So France is famous for its cuisine, and she's like, it's a travesty here.
Ratatouille,
Yeah, more than that. Like, I took her to a supermarket, and I'm like, oh, I don't mind the croissants here, and she's like, don't talk to me about croissants. I'm from France. Like,
it's like us hearing about
this is a disaster. I'm like, all right, okay. But yeah, definitely, it's a kind of ongoing joke between the expats of like, I want to say, the availability of food at an acceptable standard is more difficult.
that's the nicest way of putting it.
I'm not going to say the food is like really shit, because there's diamonds in the rough.
The food sucks.
but here, and this is sometimes what I forget when I'm in Australia, until I get back to Australia, is sort of almost at every corner there's a great little cafe where the coffee is, you know, done properly with a proper, you know, espresso machine.
Here or there?
Here. There, like next to my studio, there's no cafe, there's no nothing.
Whereabouts are you based in?
So I live in The Hague, but my studio's in Rotterdam, and I've been before I used to live in Rotterdam for close to 7 years, and there was no cafe on the corner.
Yeah.
They just don't have that kind of culture. If you go to a bakery, more often than not, it's going to be like a little Turkish bakery that's like a supermarket at the same time, and they do have like fresh breads and burek and all that sort of stuff. You know, maybe like a nice guy. Dude, I love burek.
Yeah,
you have
good,
no idea how much I love burek.
Corey's family ever made you burek or anything?
No, they haven't.
Damn.
No, I know.
Should invite you over to mine.
I know. I keep on joking with him and Steph, like, hey, so when are we going for Chirafjuti? You know, like
So you mentioned that you live, like your home is separate than your studio. Like,
Yes.
Is there a reason for that?
Yeah. I made that choice deliberately early on, because I need that mental separation between work and home. Some people don't care, and they're happy to like keep on powering on 4 o'clock in the morning, and they haven't got out of their PJs from the day before. I like a little bit more structure, and I found that I benefit more from having the structure to be able to separate, and then, there's a home time, and I'm like relatively disciplined when it comes to how much time I spend in the studio and how much time like I structure the other things in my life. And it's a lot easier to do that when it's a physical separate location away from where I live, where I sleep. Some people don't have that luxury, and that's fine. But for me, I feel like I get the most out of it as well. And the other thing is to consider is that where my studio is, it's in like kind of an industrial area. So if it's 4 o'clock in the morning and I want to crank it, I can.
Yeah.
I can do kick design at all sorts of ungodly hours. Whereas if you're working in a residential space, right? Like maybe it's an apartment and there's like neighbors upstairs or whatever it is. There's a certain point where you're kind of like, all right, we need to turn it down. Exactly right.
That's good.
Yeah. So I prefer to have it separate.
That's
yeah.
honestly, like that makes a lot of sense. And I've been to the Rebellion studio, and it's also an industrial area too. And it's very sick little studio, you know, just cozy. And I feel like you got your acoustics done. And
exactly.
So everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Now I think enough of the history lesson.
Sure. Yeah. Let's move forward. Let's move forward.
Have to move forward, I guess.
Yeah.
So tell us about COVID. How was COVID for you?
It was bittersweet, and it was the most productive I'd been in the studio for a long time, because, you know, when you're touring a lot, and a lot of my shows are like never in the Netherlands, they're always everywhere else, right? That can get really exhausting. Yes, it's a fantastic job that I have, but at the same time, it does take a physical toll. And my joy really comes in being creative. As fun as it is to be on stage, I have even more fun when I'm in the studio, and that brings me way more joy. So having COVID, for the first bit, I was like, yeah, mad, all right. It's kind of a lot of stress that we don't have shows, but I was so much more productive. And in that case, I didn't feel so badly. Now, on the other hand, when I look at my bank account, that wasn't so healthy, and that definitely brought its own bunch of stress.
You guys mostly rely on your gigs and
that's right,
and stuff to come in, and it's really hard as well because, like, mostly what like promoters do to sell out shows are like album showcases and stuff like that. So I guess during the COVID times, it would have been really tough to like, even if you wanted to release an album, you wouldn't get the same feedback from it.
No.
That. So it would have sucked.
Absolutely. There were so many different artists that were like, we're not going to release at all. Some had like full albums prepared, or that made them maybe in the first few months of COVID. They're like, we're not going to drop it. Yeah. We're not going to do that because, it doesn't make any sense.
Touching back on that, I don't know if it was, I remember following your post, I don't know if it was exactly during the time of COVID, but you were talking about as well, like your mental health during that stage. I don't know if it was you, if I remember correctly, but you were posting just about like your style, like it wasn't what you wanted to release.
Yeah.
And was that you?
It was a little bit beforehand, actually. So
just before COVID?
Yeah, just a little bit beforehand, like trying to find myself again. I felt like I kind of... I don't know, just found it difficult to make the music that I felt inspired by.
Yeah.
And it's easy to fall into a trap of like rinse and repeat, or thinking perhaps too much about the crowd's expectations. And in the end, like, so I took like a kind of sabbatical kind of year and then started building things up again. And that's, like talking about mental health, and it was kind of more about it, like, this is not happening, I'm going to do this. And then I think, I'm trying to think, through COVID, it sort of helped me discover like what I like doing, what my boundaries are, and how to challenge myself as well. For myself, to survive during COVID, one thing that I did was like a lot of ghost production because I had more time in my hands. So, and rent still needs to be paid.
Yeah.
So through that, like I had some clients that asked me to do some stuff that I wouldn't normally do for myself. And there are some ways that different producers would approach that situation. One would be like, hey, I'm not the right man for the job. That's fine. Talk to somebody else. In my case, I was like, you know what? I might not be the right man for the job now, but if I do some soul searching and teach myself some different skills, maybe I can be. And through that process was kind of like, the whole rediscovery and all that sort of thing. Yeah.
Like I really like how open-minded you are with everything. Like you're always up, like, from what I can hear, you're always up for a new challenge. You're always up to upskill yourself, which is very important because
Definitely.
at the end of the day, whatever you're going to learn to make that other person, it's going to revert back to what you're going to be doing.
You get it.
And it's gonna upskill you, and that's why we have the audio guide. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
It's very important. Upskilling yourself is very important. Like always learn more, always. And I really appreciate that. Like just hearing about it, it's very inspirational.
Thank you.
And what was your biggest learning from like that COVID period that you had? Like, coming into lockdown, and then you had a lot of time obviously to reflect, and what was your biggest learning, and what's something you appreciate a lot after coming out of...
Just a follow on.
Sure.
And I just want to ask this out of a curiosity. Did you ever think about quitting at that time?
No.
Oh, really?
No,
That's so good to hear.
Yeah. No.
Never quit.
It was more because but I'm not doing stuff that I'm unhappy with. I haven't lost too much. If anything, I've gained time. Something that I didn't have. So let me go on a bit of a tangent and then we'll circle it back, right? So in 2014, I had the honor and privilege to open up Climax with Technoboy. Now, in the weeks prior to doing Climax, I was so stressed because I had so many shows. Now, that sounds like a luxury problem, and it kind of is. But my joy, like I mentioned beforehand, really comes from being in the studio. And I'll never forget landing in Amsterdam airport from Helsinki. I had a show there the night beforehand. And my partner at the time picked me up, and I was complaining to her. I'm like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to do Climax. On the way to Climax, I'm like, no, if they cancel me now, I'll be happy with that because I've been so stressed. There's been so much stuff going on. This is just too much for me. And I haven't had my time, my studio time, because for me, studio is more than just being creative. It's also kind of therapy, right? And I hadn't had that. So literally on the way, I'm like, no, pull over. I don't want to go. We're going home. Rah, rah. And she's like, no, you're going, this is so important. You can't lose this one. All right, I'll do it. And she was like a very feisty woman. So it's kind of the one that you don't really talk back much to. So it was like, all right, we'll do it your way.
I've got one of those.
Keeping things spicy, right? So when I got to the Calderon, I was there, and it was like a pre-show thing. Nobody was there because we were opening, right? And then I started getting ready. I'm like, okay, something feels different now. something feels special about just the energy in this place, even though there's nobody here except for the production crew. Okay. Let's go. Get the makeup done. Put the clothes on, the robes on, whatever. Because Climax is like the super themed.
Yeah.
Sat down. All the stuff was done. Okay. We've got to be on stage in how long? I can't back out now. You know?
so up until before you went on.
Yeah, exactly. Still had the doubts in my mind. Then the place started filling up. I'm starting hearing that, that pre-show murmur, and then
ambient music.
Yeah, ambient music.
It feels like you're under at the bottom of an ocean, and you can just see
that's a good way to put it, for sure.
You just feel like you're sinking deep, and it's just all calm, and it's very relaxing.
Absolutely. And then
Shout out DJ ambient music.
Real one.
Started feeling the energy of the place, of like the excitement, just kind of like the murmuring stopped being like hum hum hum, and more like kind of like low crowd roar kind of thing. I'm like, okay, all right,
this is it.
This is it. Let's do this. Played the set, and it was incredible. I mean, Technoboy is a good friend of mine, so it was like, oh man, it was really cool to share this moment with you. And then I got off stage and I was like, okay, all right, that was worth it, So the reason why I bring this up is because during COVID, even though I didn't have the shows, and of course as important as they are, I can always remember how stressed I was from not having my time in the studio. Yeah. I'll never forget how I felt. I felt so rotten. I felt so tired. And so in a way, I was like, I'm rocking up to the studio fresh on Monday with no jet lag. This is the best feeling ever. So there was no point throughout the thing that I'm like, I'm quitting, I'm done, because I still had my joy. I still had my thing that really just made me so happy.
I guess it's pretty awesome if your motivation is Climax, because Climax, like I look at Climax as one of the pinnacles.
Of course,
like it is like not to say the be all and end all, but to that status.
Oh, definitely. It's got a lot of prestige.
Prestige. Yeah, that's definitely the word. But to have that as your motivation, be like, hey, I almost quit, but I had Climax. I reckon that's like a biggest driving factor.
Yeah, for sure. So it's kind of one of those things. Some people are like they miss the crowd so much, and I can understand that for sure. But for me, it was like, at the same time, more studio time. Yay.
More you time.
Yeah.
All right. Well, just let's go back a bit to women. Yeah.
Sure.
Is AUDIOFREQ available on the market?
Yes, and as of recently, and it's a sad story. It's a sad story.
Oh no.
Yeah. Look, every negative situation has a positive.
Definitely does.
We can find you an LG.
Yeah. All right, guys.
I'll tell you what happened, because it's sort of like one of those when you're kind of like, oh man, that kind of sucks. Yeah. Right. So I was with a girl for 3 years, and 3 months before we were due to fly out to Epic, she's like, yeah, I'm done.
This Epic or
this Epic?
Dude, she missed out on the greatest.
So it's like super fresh wounds, right?
Damn.
And then a week after she pulled the ripcord, it's like, hey, might have feelings for somebody else.
Oh my god.
Yeah, dude, it's full kick in the nuts.
Okay, so now AUDIOFREQ is going to be having a bit of fun, enjoying themselves.
You know what? No, 100% studio, bro.
Studio's code word for LG. Is that how they say it in Dutch? Studio, LG? Yeah.
No.
All right, so 2023.
Yes.
How is it looking for AUDIOFREQ? What's AUDIOFREQ's goals and things that he wants to achieve?
Sure. So Epic was a taste of what's to come. Oh. It wasn't like a one-off. It's a taste of what's to come. And a couple of weeks ago, I had a really, really enlightening and encouraging chat with Masters of Hardcore. I can't reveal much more, but
we can drop it on the pod. The pod's not coming out for a little bit.
Well, we still got to work out some of the finer details, right? Okay. So I don't want to say, this is coming out then, and that's happening then, and blah 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 blah, because we're still kind of working out the finer mechanics of it. And a lot of it's sort of like creative direction that relies on my shoulders, that I just need to sit down and plan and everything. But we've had a very enlightening chat, and they feel very encouraged by me, and we'll be working together closely in the future. Let's leave it like that.
That sounds awesome.
And I just want to throw something out there, man.
Sure.
I'm just going to throw it.
We've been doing it all like episodes.
I really love how positive you are, and how just always good energy, just there.
Thank you.
You're just there. You're present. Your presence is crazy, man. just really wanted to appreciate that.
appreciate it,
I understand
man.
what he's saying. Like, dude, like your motivation to keep going. So you said since 2002 you've been listening to this. Like since 2011 you moved overseas.
Yeah.
Like you're still doing like I remember watching the DEF CON weekend kickoff for 2022, and I was like, AudioFreQ, he's an Aussie. Like, yeah, awesome. And then seeing you there, and then you did the video with one of our mates where he was holding the Aussie flag, had the New South Wales jersey on, and you gave him a shoey. I still have that video on my phone, and that was at Nick's set, and I was like, I
remember that.
I was like, this is awesome.
Oh, dude, so I don't think we'll see the final cut of this, but it was shot with like a phantom camera that shoots at 200,000 frames a second.
It was supposed to end up on the after movie.
Yeah, it was, man. It was. I don't know what happened. But still, it's so
guys
cool.
at Kid Ants, you're not going to listen to this, but if you do, give us that video.
Yeah, it looks so cool. I managed to see it just after recording, and it's just this beer fountain.
Have you seen it?
No, actually.
I'm going to show you after this. I still have it like the
full slow motion? Okay, right.
I really definitely want to see this. All right, so tell us, who do you think is the next up, like the biggest artist that's about to make the biggest breakthrough in like just in the hardstyle scene? Who do you have your eyes on at the moment?
That's kind of difficult because, well, for two reasons. First off, I don't pay as much as attention as I should do, and the reason being is because I'm trying to walk my own path. Yep. If we think of Australia as a country full of very interesting wildlife, the reason why it has this is because it is isolated and has been isolated from the rest of the world for who knows how many millions of years. I don't know. Go to the Australian Museum. But that's part of the reason why we are the way that we are. So that kind of mentality is the same that I have, to try and be a little bit distant, to make sure that my own musical development is unique in its own way. Now, the other thing is, we all know that Nick Underx is a absolute bomb. Absolute bomb.
Dude, like after like you, Corey, like everyone headed out from Australia, like even God bless his soul, Ryan as well. Like we had nothing coming out of Australia for a bit, and it was sort of sad because like it plateaued here. To see like Nick, Ben, Joel, like even Brody, like he's been doing tours in like Japan and stuff like
good
that.
old Brody. Shout out to Brody.
Yeah, shout out Brody. It's awesome to see this
detergent.
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 No, it's awesome to see like these names picking up, and
Definitely.
like Ben just got a booking with Reavers as well.
That's right.
Like,
congratulations.
It's so awesome to see. But thanks to the people of Reddit, I found out about Nick like 2 weeks before he got booked for DEF CON.
Oh, word.
Yeah, and I messaged him at like 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, hey, what's going on? Tell me your deepest, darkest secrets.
So yeah, I'd say it's I have a limited perspective, but I really, really enjoy what Enderex has been doing. Of course, Ben, I was watching him yesterday, and I'm like, dude knows how to work it, you know?
Yeah.
He knows how to work that crowd, and I wish nothing but big things for him in the future. Yeah, definitely.
All the Aussies.
Yeah, I think we're getting a new generation of producers, and it's going to be really interesting, and I wish nothing but the best for them. Like you said, you know, Detergent, Divergent, Diesel as well, and Firelight and Enderex, I think it wants to keep an eye on.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, there we go.
All right, so I think you already like kind of touched base on a lot of these things, but like, where do you get your inspiration from music? When you make music?
Well, I mean, that's a very broad question. Maybe we can kind of like narrow it down. Do you mean like song ideas? Do you mean
like you start from like a vocal? You're like, all right, I can make something out of it, or like a certain melody that you can remake, or like a kick, or where do you start?
So I don't really start with the drops, because for me that's the easiest part. Right? It's usually like the concept or the theme. And I try and work that out first. So am I going for like a more melodic track? Am I going for a melodic track that has a big long break with a sung vocal? Or am I going for something that's got like a choppy, I don't know, sampled hip hop vocal? Or am I going for something a little bit more darker and spacey and a trailer voice? And I try and think of all that sort of stuff beforehand, write all that stuff down, maybe write some lyrics down if I want some original lyrics for it, and plan that out, and then go into the sound design process. And my preferred way of starting would be to build a big soundscape bed that is maybe like 30 seconds, 60 seconds long, drones, atmospheres, maybe some random sounds or whatever it is, that already, just by listening to that piece of music that has no beats, it already takes you to a space that is appropriate for the concept of the song. And then from there, I'll start building on top of it. So it's almost like the Bob Ross way of approaching. of music, right? So, you know, Bob Ross, he'll like start with
just
his
like a shape and that's it.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, like, okay, it's black here and then orange there, and then he does like a swipe like this, and you're like, oh my goodness, man, it's the reflection of the mountains and all, you know, all that sort of stuff. So I work in a similar kind of way, but it starts with idea first and a concept first, a feeling first, and then go through there. And then once I've already got that sort of stuff, I'm like, okay, cool. What kind of a drop am I going to go for it? So it's an almost analytical kind of way of doing things. But yeah, that's the way I usually...
Before we move on to the next part,
sure.
You are on Reddit a bit. I do see your comments.
Sure.
You said the more you get into a song, the more chops, the more changes you love to do. Is that still true? Like,
absolutely.
Is that why you loved this epic set so much as well?
Oh, yeah, definitely, yeah. I mean... when I have more time to work on something, I have more time to break something.
Yeah.
It's just the nature of it.
That's a good way of putting it.
When you're tweaking, then you over tweak.
Yeah.
And I like to get to the over tweak stage quite a bit. But I've always loved glitchy kind of music. So the first kind of, if I think back to my first exposure to rave music back on the radio when I was going to trumpet lessons, it was a very talented DJ that was doing a lot of cuts and chops, and, he was doing 3-deck mixing and stuff when it was not normal. And, that got me excited. I'm like, I like this. There's like samples all over the place. This sounds like a controlled chaos. I love this sort of thing. And that's way back then. It's always been ingrained into me. The first CD album that I bought was one from a trance producer that was doing breakbeat at the time. And he had a lot of like glitches and cuts and all that sort of stuff. And I've always carried that with me. I love it when I feel like the song is almost breaking, like the CD skipping or the thing is being pulled out. For me, I don't know, it touches me inside in all the right ways, better than any woman could. So,
from the inside,
oh man.
Now, just okay, I got one last question.
Sure, no, by all means, I'm happy to talk.
Before we move to the next segment, now you're talking about like the 3-deck mixing and
sure.
And you're watching that stuff.
Yeah.
What do you think about live sets at the moment? Like, how some people just pre-record a set and just throw it out there. Do you feel like,
I don't have that much of a spicy take on that one. At the end of the day, like I said beforehand, DJs have a job of being an entertainer and an educator.
Yeah.
And sometimes... it's just not possible to pull off everything that you want to do. And if you've got a lot of time-coded visuals and everything, that's a lot harder to sync up when you're sort of mixing on the fly and doing the live sets. Now, it's a bit of a shame that live sets don't have that much of a live element in the harder styles. And what I mean by that is like, is there a live instrument? Is there a live singer? Is there a live, whatever? That's kind of lacking, but I understand why there's not that much of it, because after doing it for several times, nobody cares. Nobody cares. People on the desk, no, trust me, bro. Trust me. It's one of those ones.
No, I know it's that, but Deadly Guns has been doing it, and I got to admit, I know it's not as engaging because it's like 1 or 2 songs, but dude, seeing a live guitar at like a festival is sick.
It's kind of boss, but
the guitar itself, it looks insane.
Oh yeah, he's got a special guitar for sure. Yeah. But for the most part, like people sort of just down on the dance floor, kind of like, yeah, but I want to hear my favorite song the way that I know it. Now we've got a bit more of a culture of like VIPs and expecting different kind of edits, and we have to thank Delete for really pioneering that, because beforehand a live set was 30 minutes of my songs played back to back, and then maybe some dancing around, where Ryan really took the effort to make very different versions of his songs that was like, okay, it's surprising. Oh, that I recognize. Oh, wait, that's something different. And so you get something different. Whether it's pre-mixed or not, I don't care. Yeah. It doesn't make a difference.
It's entertain me.
Exactly right.
And that's why I wanted to see what you think, because I definitely agree. That's my point of view too. One artist that I really, really enjoy watching his live sets is Radical Redemption.
Okay.
Like the last set I've seen is.
It didn't sound too convincing.
No, I'm just I'm curious.
The last set I just came back from Supremacy not long ago, and he had like this full orchestra, and just the anthem show, and it was really sick. Like just him standing there and just directing the orchestra, and he had live singers, and it was very there's a lot of work put into it.
Definitely. But when you're touring that kind of thing, I'm not sure if the juice is always worth the squeeze.
Yeah.
But with a special thing like that at Supremacy, that's different. That's kind of
that just I really like that heaps, because it was just something different. I've never seen it before. It was I wasn't expecting it, because I didn't know it was going to be that much of a big show, but it was really insane. Like with the fireworks and everything was synced. It was really good. All right,
Do you want to?
where are we going? Phil?
That's all you.
Yeah. All right. So
Navigate, my friend. Let's
all
go
right,
on a journey.
Let's You want to pull out a timer?
No timer. I
pull out a
reckon
timer,
he's
mate.
got his quick question. No,
Let's do it. Why not?
Okay.
Timer?
So we got 1 minute.
Sure.
All right, and we got 15
1 minute. No,
questions.
he does up tempo and stuff. You'll give him 30 seconds. 30 seconds. If anything's controversial,
we got
come
1
back to
minute,
it.
Sure.
And it's like this is a this or that.
Okay.
This or that segment.
Okay.
So we're going to ask you a series of questions and
Yeah.
just quickly answer us which one do you prefer.
Sure.
All right. So, gated or distorted kicks?
No, it's definitely both.
No, you got to pick
you
one.
gotta
It's
I
a time.
can't, dude.
yeah,
I
pick one.
can't.
Pick one.
Okay. Distorted kicks.
Okay.
Intense or decibel?
Decibel.
Oh, awesome.
Weet-Bix or Vegemite for brekkie?
Oh, dude. A wee picks. I don't know.
Socks on or socks off?
Socks on.
Who knows?
All right. Hack or Moz?
Hack.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%.
Ableton or FL Studio?
I use neither, but probably Ableton.
Okay, sweet. TikTok or Instagram?
Instagram.
Top or bottom?
Top.
Weekend festival or one-day events?
One day.
Yeah.
All right. Overnight or day events?
Day.
VB or TUIs?
VB just because of the memes.
Football or NRL? Football.
Which football?
Soccer.
Like soccer football. Oh, it's football, dude.
Yeah.
Come on.
Okay, good.
Mullet or no mullet?
Oh, mullets.
Activewear or dressing up for festivals?
Activewear.
You like it, Berta, here? Sorry.
Yeah. But I mean, can we deviate?
Wait.
How are we going on time?
stop.
Yeah, fake drops or kick switch?
One.
I want to say it's both.
Just pick one.
Probably. Oh man, it's maybe kick switch.
Yeah.
No, it's but
All right, last one.
Sure.
GPF or Unicorn on Kit?
a GPF.
All right.
Okay, we went over. That was my
we
fault.
went over by-
because I know you just said you broke up with your girlfriend, but seeing it here and like raise it, like
Sure.
the girls over there do not dress in activewear whatsoever.
No.
They're just, like,
I
in
mean,
shorts.
in a way, I prefer the activewear just because it makes more sense to be comfortable over a long period of time.
Yeah, definitely.
So in that sense, in Europe, or at least in the Netherlands, they kind of dress up, and I'm like, why are you wearing like Doc Martens with chains around them? Like,
Yeah.
what is that about,
feet are
dude?
so heavy.
Yeah, man, that doesn't make any sense. It's better in my opinion, for people to like feel comfortable, enjoy themselves, and whatever.
I mean, it is a workout at the end of the way.
There you go, dude. But when it gets to EDC levels, when it's just like 2 black bits of tape on the nipples, so I'm like, guys, really?
It's not an EDM festival.
Yeah.
It's crazy how like there's actually 3 different types. Like you got the Aussie like activewear thing, you
Yeah.
got like the Dutch kind of dressy, and then you got
Yeah.
like the free the nipple out.
yeah, exactly. We maybe there's a fourth, which is kind of like the Germans kind of like wearing whatever like Darrow clothes. So yeah,
Yeah.
The Germans.
Still,
AUDIOFREQ hates Germans. Kev heard that.
My ex is German.
Oh wow. So we've got a couple questions
Hit me.
that come through.
Oh yeah, the crowd questions.
Yeah, if I can get it up. Thank you, phone.
Do you need help?
No, it's up. How much do you charge for a one house set?
can't say
$50.
$50. All right, $3.50.
Official bioweapon reunion. I heard last night that happened. It was all over HMAS.
Right. So of course, Corey was playing. We've done a lot of stuff together, and it was cool for him to invite me on stage. My January and his January are looking like we're sharing the same studio together.
So
We got, okay, I'm just going to say it. We're working on a bioweapon album.
no way.
Yes.
Wow, that is awesome.
And because and it's definitely one for the fans. It's so
it's a long time coming in the sense
Yeah,
that we want to see this. So
yeah,
bad.
totally. So that'd be kind of fun. But the other thing is as well is that like next year is going to be like roughly 15 years since we started Bioweapon
Wow.
Project. So we want to do like a cool show. We haven't found the right partner yet to do it. We want to wait for the album to be done first, make sure that all that is kind of sorted, make sure the music's on point, and then afterwards we're like, all right, let's figure out who we can do something really cool with, and then do it. And of course, it needs to be done here.
Are you bringing a lot of old guys, new guys?
What do you mean?
Like old players in the scene, like the
We don't know. Like, what would be really cool?
Is everything still on the cards?
Yeah, what I would love to do would be something that is like a short evening show, like a kind of rock concert, where you go and then it's just like everyone's full ball for whatever time period it is. Get a bit of Code Black, get a bit of AUDIOFREQ. Who knows? I don't know.
Yeah.
We haven't really planned that far ahead, but it'd be really cool to have like a concert style kind of thing going on.
Yeah,
and that's where you hear the album. Yeah.
Awesome.
So, but we're more focused on making sure the music is on point and that the fans are going to be happy with the music before we start thinking about more of the details when it comes to shows.
Awesome.
Sick, man. Really looking forward to this, man.
Awesome.
All right, so this is a random question, like not hardstyle related, but what are some of your tips on improving mental health and awareness?
Ooh, okay. First, I was actually thinking about this on the way here.
Yeah, I was touching on that before. I thought we'd go deeper, but I remember the question.
Sure. So the first one, drink more water.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah, drink more water. We don't drink enough water.
Stay hydrated, kids.
Stay hydrated, kids. It's good for the mind. The second one is take enough breaks when you're working on something. It's easy to get lost and, binge your way through like a 8-hour studio session. Take breaks. And that can help. Even if it's just as simple as like, I'm going outside, walking around the block and coming back, that can do wonders for your state of mind when you're in the middle of a session. Now, that's just the basic stuff. The more important stuff that is a little bit harder to implement is like, don't compare yourself too much to other people. And the reason being is that we all grow at our own pace. We all have our own musical paths to walk. And it's very easy for us to get a bit of that kind of FOMO feeling, that bit of envy when you see somebody that's maybe not been working as long or that has been handed opportunities that perhaps in your own mind you might feel like they don't deserve. That's only going to ruin your own state of mind. You need to focus on your own path, on your own lane, and walk that rather than getting caught up in somebody else's. That's a big one. Also, just like taking time for yourself to just develop your own certain skills and allow yourself to do that as well, instead of focusing too much of like, I've got to be like this style, that's popular, whatever.
Take your own steps,
Take your own steps and be kind to yourself in that regard as well. And finally, the last one is be honest with yourself and take a good, hard, brutal look at yourself. Why do you do what you do? And are you as good as you think you are? And if you're not, that's okay. And so that kind of goes back to being kind to yourself as well. Yeah. Some people, and I'm sure you've probably run across this as well, like jump into our world because they see the benefits of what come with doing what we do. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, but be honest with yourself about it. If that's what, here, I'll never forget this conversation that I had the first time I sat down with Lil Texas in the studio.
Shout out to Lil Texas.
Shout out to Lil Texas. I love him. So we were talking about our different musical paths and aspirations and all that sort of thing. And he said, I just want to be famous. And I really appreciated the honesty there because he was so motivated in that particular goal that I couldn't, you can't really take it away from him.
Everything works along with it. Like if you have a goal just to be, I want to be famous, he's doing everything he can do to be famous. Even if it includes music, even if it includes the unreleased track that you're going to send to us after this, that you dropped that epic. But no, it's true. Like everything has to lead up to being famous. So it's those little steps, like it's each individual
But
thing.
it really comes down to like being brutally honest. And he was like that honest about it, which it kind of caught me off guard because I'm like, yo, dude, but what about the love of the music? But then in the end, I was like, hang on a second. How can I take away his dreams, his goals? This is what he wants to do. And sure, it might be the avenue for it, but he's working hard. And at the end of the day, who am I to say, no, don't work hard?
Yeah. That's beautiful. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like aligning your expectations with the effort is a big thing too.
Definitely.
Like with, if you want to become famous or become a porn star, whatever it is. Just like you need to.
I know porn stars.
So do we.
Yeah, but pretty much like you just got to align. Like you can't expect this, but you're doing like this.
There you go. And that's being honest with yourself.
That's right, yeah.
That's being honest with yourself.
Next question. So I was on the phone and you said you were getting your hair cut.
Yes.
Do you see yourself rocking that hairstyle forever and ever?
It's convenient. It's convenient. So
the reason spot you outside.
Yeah, but aside from that, like I've got this kind of like curly, almost afro kind of hair.
Yeah.
And so
I've seen photos of you early without.
Oh yeah, with the big fro.
fro.
That's golden.
Yeah.
The thing is, that's kind of gets a little bit hard to maintain and for it to look cool easily. So because this is sort of 5 minutes at the barber, bzz, bzz, done, and then put some gel in it. I don't like style it in it. There's no perm, there's no nothing. It's like, okay, perfect. Easy. It's perfect. And I kind of like maybe when it's not so long, this kind of like UFC fighter kind of look. That's kind of badass. So like
nice bantamweight.
Yeah, exactly right.
All right, so if you weren't DJing, what do you see yourself doing?
I'd still be making music, dude.
No, like besides like music,
do you have any other
DJing
passions?
is not an option. So what would you be doing?
I mean, I'd still be making. No, I mean, it's difficult because I think of myself outside of the hard dance scene a lot, and what I would be doing if I wasn't DJing, I'd still be making music. I know, and I mean that because I've got friends that work in game music. I've got friends that work doing stuff for TV. I was meant to have like a call with a guy that's worked for Marvel that does music, right? So I love that, man. I love the creative process.
Hardstyle scene, just Mjolnir just striking down.
But what's really cool is that for those guys, we're bonded by distortion. So I'd still be involved somehow in the music scene.
Distortion, I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. But yeah, I know it's a bit of like a kind of answer, but I really do not really see myself doing anything else.
If you're passionate about music, we're not trying to take that away. That's
it'd probably be different music in a different way, but I still love being creative.
So AudioFreq wants to be a porn star.
Yeah.
All right.
So to answer the question, if you weren't a DJ or a producer, you'd be a porn star.
I'd be specializing in midget porn.
All right.
Do you want to ask one more?
One more?
Yeah, and then sounds like food.
Oh, well, this last one. What did you have for dinner last night?
Oh yeah, what did you have?
Let me think. Was that home? Oh yeah, I remember what I had. I had like Russian borscht. I made it with my mum.
Are you? What is your background?
Colombian.
Oh, what?
Yeah, dude.
I thought you were European or something.
No, not at all. Not at all.
What's your last name? Like Sepulveda?
No, Gonzalez.
Oh,
yeah, man. Speedy Gonzalez up in the place.
So is it Samuel?
It's full name is Samuel, but Sam is just too long.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
If I could shorten my name, I would, because I just like short stuff. Just get through it fast, man.
Sam Gons.
Sam Gons. Yeah. I was thinking like O as a surname. Can't get shorter.
How did you get AudioFreq along with the name thing?
All right, so Code Black came out, and I was like, if we're going to get billed alphabetically, I need to pick a name that starts with a B or an A.
Well, that's it. You should have done AA. It's just outright, no one gets it. Not even.
Right, so with the name AudioFreq, is it like Audio Freak?
Yeah.
Like a freak?
It's like a play on words, right? Frequency and freak.
Frequency, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so it's both. Yeah, it's both.
Double
and then the Dutchies that see it for the first time and try to pronounce it say Freck. And I'm like, oh, dude.
Dude, I love the Dutchies,
bro,
so much. They're my favorite people.
like both of us have been to like events there and stuff, and
sure,
just the crowd is very different, man.
Oh,
I
it
love
is.
the energy from the beginning to the end.
So nice.
Yeah, they're super nice. They're more chill.
Don't get me wrong,
more chill.
Very cook, but like good energy cook. Like,
Yeah. You're not really going to see fights.
Like not a mud cook either.
No people like no sitting on no picnicking.
No
picnicking.
picnicking.
That's one thing you could have got rid of in the scene. See, I want to hear something.
All right, okay, fair enough. But the story goes, and I don't know how real this is. It was told to me by a person who was told to them, so it's kind of one of those urban legend kind of things. The story goes that a certain group of people have a genetic disposition to be affected in a certain way, so it hits them a little harder.
Hey, that hit me a bit.
Wait, is that like a?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
The more you know.
LGs beware. I don't think we can touch on it anymore other than the insides of you.
We touched plenty of spots.
Yeah. I really appreciate it, because this was so off the cuff.
Sure.
Thank you so much for taking your time.
It's my pleasure.
I've got one request.
Of course.
We're coming for, you're going to be there for Rebellion exclusive. I'm going to be there for Decibel. Please order one of those lids. you know, the disposable ones.
Oh, like the Festi Cap things?
Yeah, can you get me a Festi Cap? They don't deliver to Australia.
Really?
Yeah, no. I looked everywhere.
Shoot me the website link on Instagram and I'll sort it out.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. That's my one request.
It's very important because, like, it's
Dude,
a very
that
big
whole
issue.
bottle thing, like, we had a big issue with that one. Like,
Yeah.
one of our mates has diabetes, and, like, even the Coke cans, I was like, I need one for later, like, in case something happens to him.
Yeah.
But I understand the reasoning for the lids, but I just need one of those caps.
Yeah,
please.
word. No problem.
But yeah, thank you. Honestly, I appreciate it. It was such an honor to do this first episode with you on the back of Epic. Thank you so much for being a great guest/host as well, because it's your first time being a guest.
I wouldn't say the first, but yeah, one of the first times. Yeah, normally I'm
Here
on
in
the other side.
Australia,
Of it.
we do
Definitely, there you go. You took pop the cherry there.
Yeah.
I hope you had a great time, man. Like, this is something new for us. We're just trying to, like, make something out of it. We're trying to put the scene on the map. Like,
For sure.
I feel like there's a lot of things neglected about our scene in Australia. Not many people know. Like, they just know it, just the last country at the bottom, you know. But we want to be on the top.
Absolutely.
And I feel like having people like you and other type of key stakeholders in the scene that will kind of showcase what the backdrop of our scene is like. And maybe people will start coming to us for events.
Fingers crossed, man.
So
I wish you the best of luck because it's important to have these things that can help raise awareness besides just what people see on Instagram. Having stuff like this to create more of a connection between the scene, between artists, between the mechanics of what makes everything work. Super important. So thank you so much for having me.
Awesome.
cool,
Thank you
man.
very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers.
Thank you.